In here, Larry, are all the keys to all the doors and all the stuff that's in this place. And it's kind of amazing because we found the keys inside the garage and everything. There's so many keys.
Oh my God.
And this is how many units of things are. There's snowmobiles and skid steers and tractors. And last time it was registered was 1996. What was that, a rat? And like old stuff. So there's a ton of stuff in here. We just don't even know which ones are what, So anyway.
Time to go find out.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I think we're gonna need that cutoff saw for the upstairs because I didn't bring that key. It's in the front of the Lamborghini. One person living in here now, kind of in a hoarder situation.
You think?
It's packed to the roof with stuff.
Look at all the bottles, dude.
Oh yeah, that's nothing.
Inside the garage, tons of tools and huge machines.
That's what gets me excited.
Yeah.
Look what dudes had to hold.
Like if you had a regular man hold it, now watch. This is a regular man holding it. I don't really have any issues. You know what I mean?
And a dragster hanging from the ceiling named Pigpen, and around the corner, we found the rest of the car.
This is the car it goes on. It's a drag car. So just so you guys know, this thing's got a Donovan motor, extremely rare, full aluminum block, okay? Hemi 417. It makes about 3,800 horsepower with this size blower. This is the biggest blower that was ever put on a car back in the day.
Out back, we found a jet ski under some tarps, and when Pete went to go pull off the tarp, some weird creature just ran out and freaked everybody out.
Registered was 1996. What was that, a rat?
Raccoon. Yeah.
Oh, raccoon. Yeah.
Where?
He just went flying around the corner.
Next to that was a trailer. Now this thing had trees and bushes growing all around it, but inside was a drag car and old racing oil cans and tons of tools and all the things you would need to actually go to the track. Really cool. It's like a time capsule in there. Now, on the other side of the garage was a tent. Inside that tent is what I came for, the Model T.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's been here for a while. It's actually in pretty nice shape. I mean, it hasn't moved probably in 10 or 15
Look at
years.
this.
What's it say? Oh yeah, Model T. There you go. And that nice looking hat. Yeah, that's good for you.
Dude, you gotta rock that hat.
I think that's all you, brother.
That's all me.
Yep.
Even with all the keys in the box, I couldn't find one that actually fit in the car. Overall, she looked really good, so we made a plan in the next couple of days to pull her out, then put her on her flatbed, clean her up, and then see if she's actually roadworthy again. A few days later, when I arrived this time, Pete was cleaning the junk in the yard with his excavator and then filling the dumpster with this incredibly heavy crushed machinery. He's crazy. Anyways, we took the opportunity to use that excavator to then pull out the Model T and put it into the daylight so we can actually get a good look at it. And then I called my buddy Ted. You guys remember him from the Doodlebug episode. This guy can get anything running at any time. So I wanted his opinion on the Model T, and I asked his help when we come back to the studio. I wanted him to come in and just sort of check it out with us. With that, we loaded her up on the trailer, drove back to the studio, took her off, and then put her inside the studio under the lights. Now, the difference between a really old car and kind of modern lights, that was really fun to see. Bright and early the next day, Ted came over to check out the condition and just to see if it was savable. At this point, we still haven't found that key, the missing key that we couldn't find when we were there. So after replacing the old battery, Ted then hot-wired the ignition with one wire. After a bit of MacGyvering, we got it to turn over, which was huge. No cigar yet, but it was going in the right direction. A few days earlier, I noticed this car also came with a yellow book from 1954. In that, it showed the wiring harnesses and placement of the throttle and spark lever positioning, which was really helpful in diagnosing if we could actually get her running. So that was a huge asset to Ted. While Ted was playing with the wires up front, I tried to pick the lock. And as it turns out, I'm not a locksmith, so there was no gone in 60-second moments for me. We went with the wire instead. Next, he filed the points to make sure that we were getting spark.
Alright, I got spark.
Then he noticed that we had a fuel issue, which turned out to be a plug in the line somewhere. So what he did was added more gas to the gas tank so that we could push or flush it out. Even with the drain removed or open, there was no gas coming out. So clearly there's a plug in the line somewhere between the gas tank and the carburetor. After narrowing it down a little bit to remove that plug, we used a very, very special tool called a Swiss Army knife, and we were back in business, or so we thought. Next, he removed the fuel line that goes to the carburetor, and as soon as we opened it up, the fuel ran again. So that clearly means that the carburetor is the cause of the problem. From underneath, Ted removed the bowl, exposing the float, while I blew some air into the system from above just to see if it was clogged, and as it turns out, the ball float was in need of replacement. But after a little bit of lube, we might be able to see if she can actually run, and then just change that part later during a tune-up.
Go ahead. This is awesome. When all else fails, just pull back hard on that stick. But go right to the middle. Make sure it stays right about there. Right. Now you should be able to step on the low button.
This one?
Yeah.
And where's it gonna go?
Just forward slightly.
So go slow pushing this?
Very slow.
And if I can take my foot off.
So the further down you push it, the faster you go. Now hit the R button. Wow! Well, Larry, do it, do it.
After a few more tweaks to sort of get her to settle out, Ted suggested we go for a quick drive. Now, that horrific sound you're hearing as I'm backing out of the garage, from what I've been told, is 100% normal. Doesn't make you feel any better, but man, is that a weird, crazy, loud sound. Anyhow, my first ride driving down the street had me hooked. So I took the very long drive over to see Steve and Laura to introduce them to my new ride.
If you don't think I'm driving this home every day, you're out of your mind. Every day I'm driving this thing home. I'm gonna be the weirdo in Danbury.
That's all right.
You don't need this car for that.
That's right.
Larry making more bad decisions. Okay, at this point, now that I know that we have a pulse, next step is to get her cleaned up and then order some parts for a full tune-up at Ted's garage later in the week. Now, as you can see, the paint, the tires, the interior, they're all in rough shape, but it's what you'd expect from a 100-year-old car left in a tent for years. Step one, pretty simple. Power wash the years of mud and spider webs off the body. After the soap cannon, a gentle wash with ammo foam and a throwaway microfiber towel to agitate the very grimy and greasy body. Afterwards, I used my Metrovac Super Vacuum Blaster instead of compressed air because all of the delicate and exposed or flaking original paint on the car. This is the safest way to remove the trapped water in the seams, especially on classic or vintage cars like a Model T. For more information, check out their website, metrovac.com, and use code AMMO at checkout to save 10% off your order of any vacuum or blower for your garage. Next, I tried to remove the rear cover, and to do that, you have to unstrap those leather straps there, and when I did that, they completely disintegrated in my hand because they're so old. Then I removed the seat and found this. Oh, you gotta put your mouth on. Aside from the huge mouse nest, I also found the registration confirming it's a 1923. Up until then, we suspected it was either a 23 or 24, maybe a 25.
You know what year this is? 1923, dude.
That's awesome.
As I put the top up, I noticed a few chew holes in the canvas and even more nests, so I know this was going to be a nasty job. With the roof now fully up and the mouse poop raining down everywhere, which is a little bit intense, let the vacuuming begin.
All right, so that's a little bit better, but you can see there's all kind of dust and junk that came down from the top. That's where the big issue is, because now it's kind of everywhere. So I'm gonna try to use a little bit of mist, a little bit of water to kind of bring all that kind of dander, if you will, down, because otherwise you breathe this in, I'll get sick again. This is why we're wearing the masks. So let's put a little bit of water on the inside, then I'll go in and I'll use lather. But right now I gotta worry about the top. Every time it shakes, more stuff comes down. So time to get it wet.
Again, there's not much to a Model T, so a quick roof power washing made sense in this case, and then soaping was the safest approach next. While I was scrubbing the top, look at the reddish yellow drips coming down. That's years of urine and years of poop just embedded in the fabric coming out now. Then I used the blower again to force out the remaining seeds and mouse droppings, so you can only imagine that the smell in the studio was just fantastic at this point. Next, I sprayed shag on the fabric. I let it soak in for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then I increased its cleaning strength with the steam machine, meaning I introduced heat. Same thing on the moldy leather, but this time I used lather on the interior. Then I steamed again to help remove all of that rodent smell that was just everywhere in the studio. Okay, now with the interior looking much better and the mice now gone, but I can assure you it still smells in here. It's time to work on the paint. I love working and polishing and playing with older vehicles, especially ones that are in the 20s and 30s, because you never know what you're gonna get. Right off the bat, I measured it, it's anywhere from 1 to 5 mils thick, so again, all over the place, and most likely this has either been rolled or painted or sprayed on. My guess is it's probably been rolled just by looking at some of the streaks in the paint. But the first thing I did was I used a foam pad. You can see up here, it's actually pretty good. It's relatively shiny. Again, this is incredibly thin paint, so you don't want to go too much. And of course, it's single stage, so lots is coming off. And the idea is just to put a shine back. You're not going to get perfect depth unless you wet sand and do that. And I just don't think, one, it's necessary to do that, and two, you have enough room to play with that. You don't have enough meat. And then down here, I use the wool pad. You can see, I'll pull the camera in a little bit closer, but basically it's all swirled out. So it's so soft that the wool pad just scoured everything, so I will have to go in and foam pad it, and this is what it looks like normally. Hopefully you can see that there. It is just really scuffed up, I'm sure, from years and years and years of abuse and use. So what we're gonna do is use the foam pad, we're gonna use exfoliate polish, go through the whole thing and just kind of liven it up. Is it gonna be a show car? Obviously not, but I wanna keep that original patina, but I do wanna clean up a lot of that. Clearly somebody wiped this at some point. There's just love marks. Yeah, here's a perfect example. There's love marks everywhere, just from somebody maybe washing with a broom, that kind of thing. So in the next probably hour or two, this thing is gonna look, well, maybe not brand new, but it's gonna look way better than it does right now. And these things just make me so happy. I'm really thrilled to be working on this. Time to get it cleaned up.
Kinda strange that I'm running in circles when no one is holding my leash. Yeah, I just make the same mistakes, and I don't wanna talk about
When you're working on single stage paint, remember to switch the pad at least 2 to 3 times per car to not stress out that pad and destroy it internally. Afterwards, remove the residue with Titan 12 degreaser and warm water by hand. To protect the paint, I'm using Ammo Skin paint sealant because it just sort of feels right on this car. For the dried and faded interior, I'm using Ammo Mousse conditioner, and it drank up the protection and restored the color even after wiping off all the excess product. I also skinned the painted wooden wheels as well, just to bring back the color and add a little bit of protection. On the center caps, I quickly polished them with a 1-inch pneumatic to bring back some life as well. Then I cleaned the only 2 windows in the car, added some mud tire dressing, and we were ready for the rodeo. The next day, Ted arrived to pick the T up for a full tune-up. A few days later, after all the parts arrived, I went up there and met him at his shop to show him the page in the book where all the engine code numbers were, as we're trying to figure out how many were made and when. Now, although we got her running a few days ago just to see if we had any signs of life, most of the lines are still caked up and in some major need of cleaning. First up was to change the old oil. Next, Ted disassembled everything and we sandblasted the parts to ensure that they were clean and smooth, especially the battery connections. With the oil completely drained now, we added 30-weight motor oil. Once we hit just over 5 quarts, both the lower drain and the upper drain dripped oil, indicating it's now full. Next, we greased all the fittings and then checked the book to make sure every part that needs grease got it. I absolutely love this part of driving one of these pieces of American history. There's so many nuances and things that need specific attention at a specific time. Then Ted removed the sediment pole. Once disassembled, we sandblasted the parts to remove the 100 years of grime. Then he reassembled every tiny piece back together and then reinstalled it back under the bottom of the gas tank. Next, while I was sandblasting the spark plugs, Ted removed the carburetor to clean and rebuild the 100-year-old parts. Keep in mind, these weren't new parts. He was fixing most of it that was original, 100 years old. Completely insane again. Now check this out. There's an original plaque that comes stamped on the carburetor. How cool is that? That is a piece of history. I love that part of the car.
Yeah! Woo! Sounds great. It does. Gotta get my mirror ready.
Now at this point, all that was left was to take her for a ride on the farm.
Oh, it's like kind of crazy.
Brake.
Brake. You kind of
Try throwing
look at the cows. They're like, what the hell is this guy doing?
At this point, I let the pro take over to show me what she could really do, and it looked like he was having a blast.
I love Model Ts.
After cruising around the farm a bit, and to really put her to the test, we went back to Ted's muddy backyard just for some fun.
Oh, this thing's awesome. I can't believe it made it through there.
A huge, massive thank you to Ted for all of his help rescuing the Model T and preserving the stories, the history, and hopefully the many more years of driving.
Look how fast they're going in a Model T. Woo!
Uh-oh. What happened?
All right, so we were going real fast. Probably got to 35 miles an hour, and then it turns out the only part that's on here that seems to be aftermarket, which is the distributor, failed. And it, what did it explode or break or what?
I don't know. We lost the timing gear or a pin to hold the timing gear or something on it. But the shaft just spins now. It's not connected to the camshaft.
I'm a real Model T owner now. All right, so at this point, the car was running great. We were up to like 35, 40 miles an hour, whatever. The thing was cooking. And we're doing that moment, we're like, yeah, yeah. I'm actually taking an Instagram video. Yeah, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm so excited. I put it down, and then as soon as I put it down, boom, this thing exploded, and the distributor went nuts. And apparently that is the only aftermarket part on this car. from what I understand. So Ted is now coming to tow us back with this thing right here. Check him out. Unbelievable. Hey, I need a lift, man.
With a quick tow back to his shop, and to no one's surprise, she was up and running again in just 15 minutes. Ted is unbelievable. To learn more and support Ted, please follow his Instagram page at Dead Battery Guy. He's the best. I admire his work, and it's a privilege to call him a friend. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The guy's like a freaking like Model T, like whisper. It's like, yeah. Ooh, oh my gosh.